Uncertainty is here, and today we're going to break it down for you because there's a lot happening in clarity. We'll get into all that. I do want to thank our sponsor, and that, of course, is iTrust Capital. In times of uncertainty, you should be looking at long-term hodling, and the way to do that is jump over into your own crypto IRA. You can do that over at itrustcapital.com. Buy and sell crypto, gold, and silver with your IRA. Very easy to set up for you guys if you're brand new, and if you're trying to get into a tax position, always consult your tax consultant on this, but this is one of the tools that you can do it with, and that is crypto IRA. Use our link down below. It's going to give you a $100 funding reward just to get started and get going over there at iTrust. All right, so let me hit on a few points to kind of kick off today. First of all, busy week. Obviously, you can go back and watch our Aave and DeFi video. We really break it down, a good understanding of what exactly occurred there. But right here, the world, of course, is soaring to its highest level of uncertainty in history. In the last year, this is surpassing COVID and even the global financial crisis. This is insane when you look at the World Uncertainty Index. We have not seen these kind of highs before. And because of that, you've got a lot of things happening, of course, in Iran as well as in the markets. Iran, of course, closed the Strait of Hormuz again. The U.S. claimed peace talks would resume. They're still trying to do something there. They accused the U.S. of plotting a surprise attack. Iran denied Trump a claim of giving uranium enrichment. Basically, all of the deals are falling apart, and the issue is still continuing to be a problem, even after what we were hearing last week, which was a slowdown in all efforts. Just to give you guys an idea of how fast this market is moving, this is what happened over the weekend, because last week we had the clarity rally beginning. Of course, that was Bitcoin moving up to almost 78K. You had the post predictions I had was Zach, which is looking as though we might get clarity. We even go as far as talking about leaving bridges with Ethereum's new developments that we talked about with their team just last Friday. So all of this now, of course, things are different. Now I want to go to a clip real quick. This is a breakdown from Bloomberg talking about the escalation over the weekend. Take a look.
The U.S. is maintaining its Hormuz blockade and has seized an Iranian cargo ship. Tehran signals it may skip talks tomorrow as President Trump warns of strikes on infrastructure. He spoke Saturday.
Well, at this point, there is risk of escalation on multiple fronts. Even as it feels like we are making progress, as you're outlining, we then see these other things start to happen. But at this point, the White House is still maintaining that diplomacy is a viable option ahead of tomorrow's ceasefire deadline. In fact, the White House says that Vice President J.D. Vance, alongside Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and the president's son-in-law Jared Kushner, are set to depart for Islamabad later tonight. But still, Iran is still wavering on whether or not they will send any diplomats to Pakistan for another round of talks, and at least publicly this weekend denied that any sort of progress or concessions have been made related to its nuclear program.
So issues still rise there, but yet at the same time, we're dealing with, I just looked at WTI. This, of course, is West Texas crude. And you look at this over the last 5 days, it rose up to 85 bucks. Now it has been declining just in the last few. Then you look at the SPX right here, and we are at, again, bumping another all-time high, over 7,100 trading today. This is the daily chart right there. This is the kind of market that we're in right now. That, of course, is the issue where we're seeing institutions, and I would say the haves versus the have-nots, that are completely in opposite directions around sentiment. And this is not something that is just, I think, playing out in the interim. I'm wondering if this is going to be a longer-term issue that the U.S. is going to have to deal with. And the reason I say that, you look at this right here, the UAE is asking now the U.S. for wartime financial assistance, and you're not doing that unless you think, hey, maybe this thing is going to last a lot longer. This is the UAE asking for this, guys. So if you're in crypto, you know how much of a center, a mecca that the UAE was. Of course, that has changed dramatically just in a very short period of time. Peter Schiff continues to double down on this is all manipulation. Most likely explanation for Trump's social lies is talking about that this potentially is playing the market one way or the other. You look further into that. If you kind of carry on with this, with what Eric Balchunas is saying, don't fight the Fed or the White House, just investing alongside these things aligns you, because you'd be up 75% since the start of his term if you're just working on the moves that Trump, of course, has been somewhat indicating for what the market is going to be doing. And of course, this all moves into this right here. The point I'm getting at is this K-type approach of what's happened with the S&P 500, all-time high, and where consumer sentiment is all-time low, 47.60. I mean, this is how bad it is on the economic frontier in terms of Americans. And I think this is an issue that the White House is going to have to deal with. Midterms are just around the corner. We're going to see that here later this fall. The other factor that, of course, you have to consider is how long will the S&P continue its rise? Here's Anthony Pompliano saying the S&P 500 has seen 3 consecutive weeks with 3% gains. This has only happened 3 times in 76 years. So does that tell us that eventually the markets do return? Are we going to, that's 33% in the last 12 months. We just don't see those kind of things, especially in assets like some of the biggest securities out there. So the real question is do we start to see a tipping point? Here's Mohammed talking about that. Economic tipping point right here are notoriously hard to forecast, but the next one is likely approaching for several Asian economies in the near term and for Europe down the road. If the Middle East remains in play and unresolved, right now, this is a problem because of the physical energy scarcity. I mean, in the EU, they're already telling all of the workers there to essentially work from home. Do not start to use energy. This gets into a much bigger prospect around the global economic condition that we're dealing with. Now let's jump over to clarity, because this is starting to put more pressure on not only Trump's administration, but also the lawmakers. Banks are now pressuring all of those involved with the Clarity Act. Look at this right here, and I'll show you a couple of tweets that are very important. Mounting pressure from the banks that want to weigh in on the current stablecoin yield situation combined with Senator Thom Tillis, which is one we've broken down here recently, that desire to hear them out could potentially push the markup to the second week of May. Then the Senate returns from recess. So this starts to move into August, which is a deadline that we will not necessarily be able to meet. And I want to go to a clip real quick, because this will get into what Patrick Witt was talking about in reference to August. Take a look.
What's your best guesstimate as to when this bill can make it to President Trump's desk?
We got to move it as quickly as possible. I feel a huge sense of urgency. I think everybody else, all the principals involved, if they don't feel it, they need to feel it, because just working backwards, this bill has to get passed out of the Senate Banking Committee. It has to go to the floor. It's got to be reconciled with the ag product. That's going to take time. And then it also has to go back to the House and get passed there. So just working backwards from the August recess, if you view that as kind of a drop dead date, you realize that you have to take action now to get this out of the Banking Committee. So I feel that sense of urgency. Secretary Bessent weighed in just recently, echoing that, saying Congress needs to move now. The time is now to act on this bill. The president has tweeted out about this before, so we all feel it, and we need to see some movement here very soon.
Our prediction is this, guys. We are going to hear something from the White House. It's going to get very dicey, I think, and how this plays out, because the banks right now, I think, are in a full stall tactic to basically offset this and not get clarity through. You look at the probability drop dramatically from 64% on the 18th down to where we are right now, and it's hovering right around 48%. So as you can see, dropping dramatically. This is going to put pressure on the markets. I think it is going to continue to put pressure on crypto if this does not go through. We could see a very, very interesting summer playing out. And here's how it's happening. This is the ABA running another anti-stablecoin ad in Politico. That's this morning. At this point, it seems pretty clear the banks actually don't care that much about getting this done at all. They basically are now propagating information out there that basically starts to detach from the reality of trying to get clarity through, which was really on this administration's agenda, and it does not look like it's going to happen. Further into this came in from Eleanor Terra. This gets really dicey. Current compromise stablecoin yield text does not accomplish the goal of mitigating the deposit flight to stablecoins. This comes from the NC bankers, so it's the more regional side of it. I'll show you who that is, the North Carolina, basically the ABA, one of their charters. And then you look at further into it, must include the airtight prohibition on payments for stablecoins acting as a store of value by clearly barring any interest or yield-like payments tied to the holding, retention, or balance of payment in stablecoins. This is the issue we are facing right now. The email also adds that employees don't need to answer questions or defend their positions. Simply state your message and you'll be thanked for your call. That's very eerie sounding. It's as if this is all pre-planned and they've got, like, you know, insiders telling them what to do. There was another situation where banks were going in as far as literally scripting it out to simply just kind of ignore it, you know. So these are the kind of things that are happening right now in DC, and I'm talking about in reference to getting Clarity cleared. Now, Michael Saylor is hitting one thing because he acquired another 34,000 in Bitcoin. That's 2.54 billion. And if you look at that, along with what's going on right now around what Master is holding, because they just surpassed IBIT as the largest holder, single holder of Bitcoin. So pretty significant as they continue to play on this. We're going to have their CEO on next week to talk about this because it's pretty interesting, the strategy is playing. It's Tom Lee continuing to support Ethereum with a $100,000 purchase. And this is something we've been kind of looking at for time, but because of what's happening with the situation with the Kelp DAO and Aave over the weekend, this may be a defense position of trying to hold the price of ETH. This is all happening on a Monday. So get ready. It is going to be a busy week. If you like this video, hit like and subscribe, drop a comment down below, and also join our free private member group. The link is in the description.